Greg Ehrenberg here with Adam Scherer, and we've got a pretty interesting NBA injury report video because we've got just COVID sweeping the NBA. So a couple of teams in New York, the Nets and the Knicks, totally decimated today. Pretty shorthanded rosters. Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, if any other injury news breaks during the day, leave a comment below whether anybody gets ruled out, gets upgraded. We saw it happen with the Memphis Grizzlies yesterday. Hit me up in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer any kind of questions you guys have. But until then, Adam, let's talk about some of these news, and we'll start with the Nets, but not directly the COVID situation players. I want to ask you about Kevin Durant because he was downgraded to questionable today because of an ankle injury. So totally different from what the rest of the team is dealing with. But as it applies to Kevin Durant specifically, how is he impacting other players on the Nets?
Yeah, so the biggest impact for Durant, well, for one, it makes James Harden look much, much better. If you take Kevin Durant off the floor, you turn James Harden into around a 1.7 fantasy point per minute player instead of 1.4. And Harden, we would expect to play a ton of minutes as well. So that's the biggest impact. But also, at best, the Nets only have 10 active bodies right now, to my knowledge. So if Durant is out, that knocks them down to 9. 3 of them typically are only playing center. So it would make it a situation where any wing who is normally in the rotation would be likely to play a ton of minutes. So, we'll talk about that more when we talk about the guys that are out for COVID, but it would just make minutes even more secure for everybody on the Nets, in addition to opening up a lot of production for James Harden in particular.
Yeah, and then we have the COVID situation from the Nets too. So these are the players that we currently know of that are in the COVID protocols. That is James Johnson, DeAndre Bembry, Javon Carter, and Paul Millsap. So with all 4 of these guys out, there's a whole lot of playing time to be had for the Nets. And this obviously is different from the James Harden situation. If Durant's out, Harden's going to be in play no matter what. But as it stands now, which cheap player benefits the most with these 4 players in the COVID protocols?
I think Nick Claxton is number one. He's close to minimum salary. He's been behind LaMarcus Aldridge in the rotation, but you've seen him stealing minutes from Aldridge. Last game, Claxton played only about 6 minutes or so in the first half, but he ended up playing 23.4 minutes for the game. So from a conditioning standpoint, there's no real reason to think he can't play into the mid-20s here. You're taking Aldridge out. Blake Griffin hasn't really been in the rotation. He's kind of gotten reinserted recently, but still only played 9 minutes last game. So I think it's likely you see the 48 center minutes split between Claxton and Griffin. Maybe it's not an entire 48 minutes and you get Duran Sharp or something picking up a little bit of run at the 5. But especially if Durant is out too, which would remove the possibility of Durant playing minutes at the 5, it's pretty difficult for me not to see enough minutes from Nick Claxton for him to look like a really good value. You also are likely to get increased playing time from guys like Cam Thomas and Bruce Brown, who are capable of playing multiple positions. Thomas has already put himself in a situation where it seems like whenever they can, the Nets are getting him more run anyway. And then Bruce Brown, his minutes have been all over the place this year, but just capable of playing a lot of positions. There's a lot of minutes available. So I think that in addition to Claxton, Brown and Cameron Thomas are likely to take a pretty sizable step forward.
Yeah, and I can't remember whether when I read off the list of names I included LaMarcus Aldridge or not, but he is also in the COVID protocol. So overall, just to reiterate, these are the Nets that are out for the next period of time. James Johnson, Paul Millsap, Javon Carter, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Bembry, all in the COVID protocols. Today's show is sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. If you guys are new to Yahoo, do yourself a favor, go sign up for Yahoo DFS using the link in the description box below. Head on over to Yahoo, make your first deposit, sign up, and you get 1 free month of Awesemo Platinum. You get all the tools that we have that you need to make money playing NBA DFS. All right, so getting back to the NBA injury report and another COVID situation, also New York, but it's the New York Knicks. Not quite as many players as the Nets are dealing with. We do have RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin. They are both in the COVID protocols. Who stands out as value plays for the Knicks with them out?
Yeah, and so in addition to that, you also have Quentin Grimes not playing after playing 39 and a half minutes last game. But you do get Alec Burks back. So I think it's likely that we see similar rotations to what we saw last game, but with Burks in place of Grimes. It makes a lot of guys on the Knicks stand out, but in particular, Derrick Rose and Alec Burks, I think both are likely to play a lot of minutes here. Rose started and played 36 and a half minutes last game. You don't necessarily expect 36 and a half minutes again, but he also doesn't need to play that many minutes. 6,200 on FanDuel, 5K on DraftKings. This is a fantasy point per minute guy that is locked into a pretty big workload right now. Alec Burks has played a ton since he moved into the starting lineup. I expect him to need to play a ton tonight as well, so he looks good. But then even from a tournament perspective, it opens the door for guys like Evan Fournier, Emmanuel Quickly, where normally like Fournier, for example, will lose minutes too quickly, or Rose, and then also, RJ Barrett. Now it's just easier for Fournier to slide down, take Barrett's spot. You get more, Quickly can still play his 26 to 30 minutes. If Fournier is playing well, there's a path to him getting 30 to 32 minutes here. And then kind of the ugly spot that you don't really want to talk about, but you kind of have to mention, Kevin Knox off the bench played 28.8 minutes last game. I don't think it's necessary for him to play that many minutes again tonight. He was in the closing lineup, whereas Evan Fournier and Julius Randle, neither one were on the floor at the end of the game, but he still played 12 and a half minutes in the first half of that game. He's likely to give you 24 to 26 minutes at least, and is close to minimum salary, so at least deserves a look.
All right, the final situation to talk about, one that you and I talk about, it seems like every show now. DeAndre Ayton is questionable. Eventually, this guy is going to return, but under the situation he's out, why should people be playing JaVale McGee again?
Right, so McGee is just excellent. He played 26 minutes in the start 2 games ago without Ayton. Last game, dealt with a little bit of foul trouble, but still played 25 minutes. If you can count on 24 to 26 minutes from JaVale McGee, it just makes him one of the best plays on the slate. Obviously, he needs Ayton to be out for that to be the case, but it's just a really good spot. Ayton himself, though, looks fine. Like, if Ayton's in, I don't expect him to be limited because it's a non-COVID illness that's caused him to miss a couple of games. I don't think there's any real reason to think that if he's in, he's not playing 32 to 33 minutes. So I don't think it's particularly risky to play DeAndre Ayton in a good amount of lineups. Know that you're getting a pretty good mid-range option if he goes, and then know that it's going to be very, very easy to just swap to JaVale McGee, even if it's a lineup where that's the only spot that you can swap. Like, even if, because this game starts a couple hours after the other 2 games on the slate. Worst case scenario is you end up with, $3,000 left on the table. But when you consider how good of a per minute guy JaVale McGee is, it's not a huge deal because he's still like, he can still get you 35, 40 fantasy points. So, ideally you'd be able to swap somewhere else and upgrade somewhere else in your lineup. But if the worst case is just going from DeAndre Ayton to JaVale McGee, that's still not the end of the world.
Yeah, and to quote something that Josh Engelman had said when I was doing Live Before Lock with him yesterday, I believe it was JaVale McGee is 3rd in the league over the last month in fantasy points per minute. So if he was to be starting, he really should be priced like probably even double what he is right now, considering his points per minute production. That is going to do it for us today, guys. Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If any other injury news breaks, leave a comment. I'll answer any questions you have. Good luck today.